Good morning, Hollow Haven family. This is After Dawn, the show where we sit down and have a cup of coffee with the cast, crew, and creators behind Hollow Haven Studios Productions. I'm your host, Solomon. Today we are talking about the most recent episode of Wayfarer Season 3, which was episode 5, Blood on Your Knees. This was a very fun episode to me. Went into a lot more of the backstory of some of our characters that we didn't get a whole lot of time to go into the background of. Got a little bit more background for Isabel, got some hints for background from Piper, and even got some dark secrets revealed from Rosanna. And of course, Arthur got to be surly the entire time as usual. But of course, my opinions and thoughts are not the only ones that matter. I'm joined by the players for Arthur and Piper, Scott and Termite, respectively. Hello.
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 Great
So
episode. It was an emotional episode, my friend.
It was a very emotional episode.
There were emotions? What are you talking about?
Says the person who's cried more on stream for Wayfarer Season 3 than probably most of the other cast for the rest of the seasons.
I have cried 3 times in 5 episodes.
Yep. So far, that's a greater than 50% margin.
Sure is.
Did you expect to be crying this much with this season with Piper in general?
I expected there to be a couple times. I didn't expect it to be this often, though. I thought it was going to be more spread out.
You just
the theme of the season is make Piper cry.
Yep. You just keep puncturing your trauma puppet.
I sure do.
And then you give everyone else some knives and say, go for it.
I would never do that. What are you talking about?
Truly never. I apologize.
I'm pretty sure that's just how Termite plays all characters on Hollow Haven Studios. Just hand knives out and wait to be stabbed.
Not all of them. Just most of them.
Yeah, there's on one rare occasion we got to see a time where Termite was the one with the knife.
True. If you want to see more of that, tune into Apotheosis Season 3 happening in...
That's also true. I was actually bringing up the lady afterwards, but that's all. But
that one too.
Okay. So sometimes Termite holds the knives. Sometimes.
Occasionally. So we know how Piper's probably feeling a little bit raw, given everything that's happened. How's Arthur feeling with all of the developments that have been coming to light?
Inflicted. I mean, I don't really know how to describe it any differently, but yeah, like on the one side, it's like, what the hell is going on in the cell, right? And then on the other side, like he wants to help everyone, but it's like, can he, right? So it's super conflicted. And then now there's this opportunity for potential retirement, which, you know, looks really good for someone who's just trying to like get his relationship and life in order. So, you know, really conflicted about this whole situation. Like, do I trust them? Do I not trust them? Who do I trust? What's going on? And where do we go from here? So pretty conflicted about everything going on.
A hunter actually trying to get his being a person side in order? Nah, never.
In this economy?
Better just let it implode. Am I right, Termite?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, there was that whole thing with Piper's love interest character. And like that was my journal entry and stuff was related to that, like, because basically it was the same kind of situation that Arthur was in last season. And he opted to try to save it, right? And Piper went the other direction. And it's like Arthur deep down recognizes that that's where it could have gone. And that's why he was trying to be supportive when that whole scene went down in the previous episode. because it's like what could have been and didn't go. So, he feels for Piper in that situation.
And yet on camera, you were smiling like you had Satan on your face.
That's very true.
I mean, it was because of it being like, there's a couple of things that have happened in the season that have been mirrors of what happened in previous seasons. And so like, it's just, to me, like as a player, I'm all gleefully like, this is some good writing where we see these sort of mirror things that have happened and these storylines that are like circling back and coming back together. It's just really exciting for me as a player. So I try not to have like those looks on my face, but I've been told that I have an expressive face, so apparently can't hide my feelings.
Especially when not on camera.
Yeah. I mean, I've fallen asleep on camera. Everyone knows how I'm feeling basically all the time.
That's fair enough. So I would like to just go ahead and open up the floor and ask what both of you think about the developments of, everything that happened. Meeting with or listening to Uncle Tom. Later hearing that apparently Ophelia is going to ground, and you might have to talk to the Linnaeus Society some more after a rather tense working with them in the last season.
I'm curious to know Piper's feelings / Termite's feelings.
I don't trust any of this shit.
I mean, that's fair. Arthur doesn't know if he can trust them. He doesn't think that they should, because he also, and I think I said this somewhere, like figured out that they wanted something from Rosanna, right? And he recognizes that he's being used as the catalyst to get that thing, to get Rosanna over there. But it's hard not to have like he's not gonna trust them. Don't get me wrong. He's not 100% on board, but it's also hard not to like not consider the offer of like protection for his people. I mean, that's his biggest motivator. But no, he does not trust them. He recognizes that this was all like that this whole thing was because they want access to Rosanna. So he knows that. He's not dumb. As much as I play Arthur being kind of not smart in his choices, he's also not dumb, right? And interestingly, this kind of goes back to something that we haven't really played so much of Arthur's character, and that is that he's actually a kind of a gambler and a manipulator. He's got a pretty decent skill as far as that's concerned. So that's what I was trying to do in the phone conversation, like in the beginning of that phone conversation with Uncle Tom, as it were.
What a
Arthur
name.
We've got to stop calling him that.
I know. Bishop Thomas. In the start of the conversation with Bishop Thomas, like, listen, don't bullshit a bullshitter, without saying those words directly, because that's like that's always done in movies. But like realistically, if you want to find out what somebody's really after, you don't tell them that you're onto their BS, right? You got to pretend like you're not.
Of course, you got to play along.
Mm-hmm. And the movies are always like, don't kid a kid or kid, or don't fool a fool, but like that doesn't get you anywhere in reality.
It just tells them that they're onto him, and then they can change tactics.
Right. And so I was like, let's hear where this goes, because it was really, all of those phone calls are pretty excellent, like master manipulation at play for sure. Became very clear in that conversation, like with Isabel, for example, where he just suddenly switches things, and instead of it being like we're against them, all of a sudden he's like, we work with them. It's like, okay, all right, buddy.
We hunt the monsters, but we work with a few of them. It's like,
yeah, that's like a 90-degree turn there, my friend. Like, what's happening? So, yeah, doesn't trust them, recognizes what they're after, and we didn't have a chance, but I was gonna have the moment of like, say something to Quiet about like Quiet's gonna do what Quiet's gonna do, but don't trust them. Essentially, we didn't get there yet.
oh, I'm sure we will, though.
Mm-hmm. But as far as the other stuff, like Isabel's revelation, I think we had an pretty good on-screen moment describing how Arthur feels about that particular situation.
Yeah.
So, do you think out of character? Do you think it's really pot calling the kettle black when it comes to relationships with kindred?
I mean, as we sort of brought in the chat, do I think that Arthur has an unhealthy relationship with kindred? No. So Arthur's a hunter, right? He that's all he's wrapped up in, and yeah, he's unhealthy. As we said, he's unhealthy. He has an unhealthy relationship with himself. He still feels guilty for things that were outside of his control, and I don't know if Arthur will ever get rid of that feeling, right? Because he still feels bad about people that he led to the ascension, quote unquote, and especially after knowing that the ascension wasn't what it was, right? And that's been his whole motivator as a hunter the whole time. So does he make really bad decisions when it comes to feeling guilty about stuff or feeling personally responsible for situations that are definitely not his fault? Yeah, very unhealthy in that regard. Now, it doesn't have to be kindred. It could be werewolves. It could be fae. It could be anyone. He has an unhealthy feeling toward that. So yes, he does have an unhealthy relationship with kindred in that regard, but it's mostly toward himself and the idea of accepting personal responsibility for things that are not your fault. So, but his view in that regard is that it's unhealthy to be friends with them, which is probably also not healthy. But it sort of runs the question of like, how do hunters as a whole, like how do hunters feel about the supernatural? And that's kind of what I think we address a lot in the show. Like there's a lot of the cell talking about that particular situation. And it leads a question about the creeds, how like the creeds and the drives and how those play and how the hunters feel about the supernatural. And I think that as far as each of us is concerned, I think we're all doing a very good job of like portraying our characters like creeds and drives very well. And I don't think any of us have ever like done a bad job of portraying that at any point, you know?
Yeah, I definitely don't think that any of you have done a bad job. Some people might just not have caught on to what the particular creeds and well, they caught on to the creed because you basically say that at the beginning of every season, but the drives are a little more murky.
Yeah, for a little while I was unsure about Isabel's drive. And then I picked up on what it was. But for a little bit, I know it was told to me in the session 0, but somehow I had forgotten. So I spent in season 2, I think like 4 episodes or so, 4 or 5 episodes, trying to remember what it was based on the way that Aubrey was playing Isabel. And then I realized what it was.
Yeah, it didn't really come into play until when we met Vincent the first time.
Yes. Then it became clear. Right. And then I was like, yeah, okay, I know the drive now.
Speaking of drives, could we get a reminder as to what the drive is for Piper? I believe that we all can generally pick up what the drive is for Arthur.
Piper's drive is vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
As shown by how eager or keen she might have been on getting information on that one vampire.
Yeah, there's going to be some things that happen as we go down that road.
More arson?
Probably not.
No, but
arson's not personal enough.
Right. I was just say, like, you know, I think that Termite does a great job with that one because there's a couple of different ways to look at the vengeance drive and how it applies. But I think that like the way that Termite portrays Piper always trying to get information, right, to like one up them, right? It feels like that, like not necessarily one up the monsters per se, but one up everything going on, like trying to get ahead of it so that we can do something about it. I think that's a pretty good way of looking at vengeance, because sometimes you might look at vengeance the way Arthur might look at vengeance, which is just kill them all, let God sort about, you know, kind of feel. But there's other ways to do that, especially when you have like the creeds come into play. So I think it's great at Termite. I think you're doing a great job.
I agree.
It's fine. It's fine. We'll see the more aggressive side of it once Piper actually has a chance to do something.
Fair.
And she's just going to go absolutely feral.
I mean, at some point, it's got to happen.
I'm not saying that she has the ability to make explosives, but like, it's really easy to make explosives with household materials.
It's true.
I'm also pretty sure that that's a like int and science skill roll, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's int and science.
I think so. That is unironically one of the edges I was very tempted to pick up, but I didn't end up grabbing it.
Piper, why are there blocks of bathtub Semtex?
It's best if you don't worry about it.
Yeah, I picture the RV like security system that we have is just lined with something where you pull a string and everything just lights on fire.
Everything just the arson is the defense mechanism, not the assault.
Yep.
Exactly. People
Seem
can't
not
rob
safe.
you. People can't rob you if everything is turned to ash.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's like that scene. Oh, never mind. I forget the name of the movie, but the one where Mel Gibson's like a conspiracy theorist, and he like they come into his house and he like pulls a cord and then everything just lights up in like white phosphorus fire.
Oh God.
Jesus.
Just like that. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I imagine.
That sounds very Mel Gibson.
It sure does.
Alrighty. Thoughts on meeting with the Linnea Society again? Do you think that Arthur might be any less surly?
No.
Or will it be more surly?
It'll probably be worse.
Do you think that Piper might actually show up this time as opposed to just having drones everywhere?
Ooh. I mean, Piper is safer behind the drones.
It's true.
I think everyone might prefer that because if Piper gets too close, things happen, especially with the magic, right?
Honestly, the magic is the least of the worries if Piper ends up getting close. So she's still hella cursed.
Yeah, there is still the
So
curse.
if things go wrong, then things go wrong.
Ultra wrong.
Just starts collecting things from Vincent.
Just trying to have a
skin
conversation.
Here. Yeah. It is going to be interesting because I think with not just Piper, but like, I mean, there's like a couple of factors. I know that Rosanna's probably going to go down the avenue of, okay, well, you know, it's fine, even though these guys and my friends are fighting. Arthur's going to be exactly the same as you'd expect him, just like he was before. Like, I don't want to be here. I'm ready for you to do something. I don't want to be here. But yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. Oh, also, because Arthur sees everything in black and white, so his version of what the Linnaeus Society is just evil, a bunch of evil people trying to be vampires. Even
Maximum
if, like,
evil.
Yeah. Like, even if 90% of them aren't, that's still his perspective.
Fair enough. Let's see here. Do you think that Arthur will be able to really go back to Katie Lynn after all this is said and done?
I mean, yeah. I mean, of course, that's what he wants, right? In the end, I mean, I think that Arthur is probably always going to continue to hold this feeling like he owes the world some penance for his sins, right? He's always going to have that feeling. I don't think he'll ever get rid of that feeling. So I always envision like the retirement being like he nominally doesn't go out and hunt, but he absolutely keeps tabs on stuff. And if anything is within striking distance, he'll go out and do it. But like, it's a really fun conversation because on the other side, Clara is like, Katie Lynn is secretly slowly trying to learn what she needs to know to be a hunter. So it's like, what does retirement look like when your wife is now suddenly on board to go kill something? Right. So yeah, I think he'll try for sure. I don't know how long that will last. But he'll certainly try. He's been making motions between the seasons to like get the Church of the Rising Star groups all kind of set up to run themselves, so that he doesn't actually have to run them per se. So I mean, he's going to try. I don't know that in the long run of like futures, like him showing up in random episodes of other things at HHS as Arthur the Hunter. I don't know how that will look, but it is a possibility for sure. Retirement may not be so retired for him.
Not exactly restful.
Yeah. You know, people, they retire and then they spend like 6 months and then they go get a job. Kind of like that.
Fair enough. What is Piper's end goal after all, through all this? She said in the call with Uncle Tom that she just wants to have something a little more normal, a little less constantly looking over her shoulder. Do you think that's really viable or possible?
No. I ultimately I don't think that's ever going to be possible for her. Given everything that's happened. I think had this conversation happened before she broke up with her partner, there might have been a chance. But at this point, that's all but gone. So as much as she might want that, she doesn't really have a reason to be after that. She doesn't really have anything to go back to at this point.
She can come live on the compound in Louisiana and help raise the kid that at least one kid that Katie Lynn wants. Teach them tech so they're not as lost as Arthur is.
Are you sure you want Piper to be the to be the babysitter here? No offense, but I mean, Piper's a mess.
I mean, Piper is, but I think Piper would be a great babysitter. I mean, at the very least, being like, okay, kid, that's a stupid plan. Don't do that. You know?
That's really dumb. Here, let me help you with that.
Exactly. There'd at least be that, you know, the kind of nanny that's keeping track of the kid and just being like even if Piper's just like doing something, then just looks over and goes, what are the kids doing now? I think that Piper would be like, no, stop it. All of you, stop that. That is bad. Don't do that.
That's fair. Probably better than Tav and Patty, who might just say, give it a try, see what happens.
Yeah, it's all fine until the robot with the shotgun gets involved.
Sandbag rounds, it's fine.
I just picture a little kid riding the robot dog now.
More like a robot spider.
Ride fucking Gozer. If the kids ever say that they want a dog, is Arthur going to relent, or is he just going to get flashbacks to Gozer?
He'll be like, listen, I know a dog. We're going to get that dog. That'll be our dog. No other dogs. I don't trust dogs. No, it'll be that thing. It'll probably be that thing where the family wants a dog and dad doesn't want a dog, and then the family gets a dog anyway. That's what'll happen for sure.
Or they just get a cat and completely break the chain.
Yeah, see, Arthur could deal with a cat because that's just a roommate that doesn't pay rent, right? That's fine. They live their life.
It's still a roommate that doesn't pay rent.
It's pretty accurate for cats, really.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You come in and they're just like, oh, hey, it's up. I've been staring out the window for hours. Anyway, leave me alone. But I mean, yeah, so there's a space for Termite on that compound. If Termite decides that that Piper doesn't want to continue hunting, as it were. Because no one's looking for you on the compound as long as you keep the IRS at bay.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see how the rest of the season goes. Let's
Fair.
be honest. We'll
Fair.
have to see if Piper makes it through the rest of the season alive.
I mean, that's fair.
It's
You
very
know?
fair.
Like there's so many chances coming up for us to get into something that we all can't get out of. So I mean, there's a very strong chance that does happen. We'll see.
Yeah.
Especially if you guys run into Ren, which I believe both Arthur and Piper were very keen on. Yeah, let's just murder her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
But-
so the real problem is if Piper is ever directly involved in combat, because she's not good at it.
See, it's Arthur's only good at it if it's supernatural. He's not a martial character, right? This is something I was thinking about. Like, he's not a martial character. So if Rin has any kind of non-supernatural bodyguards or whatever, just like Vincent, if he's got a bunch of non-supernatural bodyguards, then Arthur's effectively useless because he's really only good against the supernatural bodyguards. Then he has a chance. But none of us, not a single one of us in the cell, are martial.
Nope.
So, yeah. So supposing there's not just a bunch of priests surrounding her, we might we might have a chance. But if it's a bunch of priests, we're gonna have to talk our way through that one.
Again, and that's why we have the shotgun robot.
That is why we have the shotgun robot.
Oh no, the priests also have shotguns.
Yeah, but they're not robots, right? They get shot.
Oh no, the priests don't have shotgun damage. I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and it runs the gray territory too. Like if we like, how are these priests built, right? Because if we're using the kind of hunter rules, then we could probably deal with them. If they have true faith, then we may not. Like, it depends on how it goes. Because in the hunter rules, true faith does not exist. It's broken down into these smaller subcategories of like true faith light. Like, our abilities aren't exactly true faith, but together they all kind of lead to that.
True enough.
So we'll see how it goes. I'm interested to know how that goes down. I assume it's going to be mostly Rin and Rosanna having some kind of like magic mental fight.
It's like the end of It,
Yeah.
where they engage in a weird psychic battle.
Yep. That is what I foresee as well.
Just fighting the trauma they have together.
Yeah, some kind of weird mental plane step away while the rest of us are dealing with whatever else is around. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
So, got a question for both of you. Honest thoughts on the fact that Isabel is a ghoul, kind of.
As players or as characters?
Both.
I mean, as a player, I think it's neat.
Yeah. It's an interesting story dynamic from a player perspective of like this sort of mishmash group of unemployed friends. Each of us having our own like thing going on. It is neat to see like putting a ghoul in a group of humans and them ostensibly not just being like, ooh, vampires are fun, right? Like it's a different kind of story dynamic when you have something like that in the group. So I think it's cool from a player perspective. Obviously, Arthur hates it.
Yeah.
Yeah, from a character perspective, and by God, I'm going to say this a lot for the rest of the season. Piper doesn't like it, but we have bigger things to worry about right now.
Just become a very ad nauseum phrase.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like, is it currently trying to kill us? No, we can worry about it later.
Yeah, Arthur's journal entry was like, okay, so, all right. what is the ends here? What does because one of the tenets of our chronicle that is sort of out there is the ends justify the means, right? And so while I don't like the players don't necessarily have that sort of concept in their head per se, that is a question that he was asking, like, what is the end goal here? What does becoming a ghoul mean? And is it good for us as a whole? Is it safe? Being that Arthur was pulling a Batman contingency plan to kill everyone, he has to revamp his contingency plan for Isabel now. If you guys didn't know that, I think I've already hinted at that Arthur thinks he's gonna have to kill everyone.
For being the faithful, he sure does lack it.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, he's faithful in one regard. He actually believes that he can kill everyone. He just has to come up with the right plan for it.
And he's faithful in the hypocrisy regard, but you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, not exactly. He does think that he's going to have to kill himself. He does think that he might go too far. He has a contingency plan for himself. It got thrown in, a monkey wrench got thrown in that plan when Zephyr turned out to have gone to the dark side, because Zephyr was his contingency plan for himself. But now, Piper is his contingency plan for himself. But that's also getting a monkey wrench thrown into it with what's going on with Piper.
Piper is fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
She's fine.
Right. But that is why he's like, yeah, let's solve this problem. Let's uncurse Piper. That's why he's focused on that, because Piper is his contingency plan for himself.
All right. I think that this is a perfect time for us to go ahead and get into the spilling the tea segment. So both of you are now free to ask any questions of me, ask any questions of each other, or positive questions for further down the line for me and my co-host to ask future guests.
Well, we're halfway through the season, so I think now's a good time to ask. Hey, BP, what the fuck?
As per usual, the what the fuck comes in to be thrown at the DM.
Yeah. I'm sure you'll be asked this several more times before the end of the season, but what the fuck?
Probably by several more players.
True.
I mean, we have that finale episode to ask all the questions too, right?
It's true.
But yeah.
So you might just have to come together and ask what the fuck as well.
At the same time.
Yeah, just a big...
I'm sure that can only go well.
I do want to know, like, becoming a ghoul for Isabel is one thing, but what we're doing something different because we already have quite a bit of XP, so we're kind of doing a different character development setup here for the season. I'm actually curious to know if there's like a path for Isabel to develop the ghoulness. You know, that's an interesting question. I'd like to know. And if Aubrey doesn't know, then does BP know? And is it just, nah, we didn't really think that far. I'm curious to know what the plan is there.
Fair enough. I know that there are rules for a ghoul developing their powers as well, but that usually comes from drinking more blood and having a whole lot of experience to dump into getting level 1 abilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think by the rules, ghouls can't have a discipline above 1.
It's true. They only have access to the first level powers of the disciplines that their Domitor has.
Yeah, so it's just kind of eh.
They are very much mortal plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What clan do we think the guy whose blood Isabel drank was?
Jace, right? That was his name.
Jace, yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Well, that is a good question. Mm. Well, based on she has it's Protean, right? That
Yes.
Isabel got.
Protean.
Yeah, that was the one that lets her see into the dark eyes of the beast.
Yeah. Um, I'm not super familiar with all the clans. I know that the Zamisi have Protean, right? But I don't know about the others.
Samisi, Gangrel,
Gangrel,
and
and
Settites. The
yeah, the
Ministry.
ministry.
Okay. I mean, I guess. I mean, my guess is the weakest because I'm like my experience with vampire was from way back in the day, and so I'm not sure of the V5 changes, you know.
Mhm.
So I'm not super great at that, but I'm gonna go out there and throw it out there that maybe he's a Zamisi, but I could see Gangrel as well based on the way that he was acting.
Yeah, he could be a Gangrel. His whole demeanor, though, kind of gives me Setite vibes, so Ministry.
Ooh.
But I feel like it could easily go either way. I don't think he's at Samisi. He's not nearly well put together enough for that shit.
Not anywhere near as alien.
Okay.
I personally think that he was a gangrel, but that just might be my love of gangrels shining through.
I guess we'll find out if Isabel starts talking to animals or something next.
Yeah,
We'll see.
that would probably be a really good indicator.
It's that, or we have to bully BP in the finale. Either way.
Yeah.
Pretty sure you guys are going to bully BP in the finale anyway.
Well, I mean, yes, but it was a question of whether we had to do it for this question or not.
Fair.
Hmm. Well, I guess my question for Termite, how did you feel about the conversation with Uncle Tom? Aside from your trauma dumping and stuff on him, how did you feel about that whole conversation?
I like I said, Piper does not trust a single bit of what's being said. She also doesn't really have a reason to say no at this point.
Mhm.
Um, especially if it means the rest of the cell is safe. And it already seemed like they were going to go along with it, so her decision was already kind of made before that conversation. So she was more just curious what he was going to offer her. Um, which, all things considered, was nothing.
That is true. That is true.
Um,
Do you think that was because of the way you went into confession mode, or do you think that there wasn't really any plan for Piper?
I think it was a little bit of both, because it seemed like there wasn't. Because even when Piper asked what he was going to offer, his response was, "Well, what do you want?"
Mm-hmm.
So it seemed like he didn't really have a plan, and was really just banking on Piper being pragmatic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to me that the other conversations with Isabel and with Piper felt like it was like I have to talk to them, but my ultimate goal is Rosanna, right?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
not the whole thing. But
Absolutely, he's obviously after Rosanna.
Yeah. Well, I have to make these phone calls because we told them that we would call, but Rosanna was his goal. I mean, he said so in the conversation with Arthur. But I thought those were great.
Yeah, as a player, they were very fun conversations, all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes it's good to have an episode like that where like not much happens aside from like really digging into the meat of like what we're doing next, you know?
Yeah, this is the closest Wayfarer gets to a beach episode.
Yep.
It's
And
the
we're not,
Trauma Canyon episode.
yeah. And we're not going to have like a musical episode where everyone breaks out in song.
Don't say that out.
I mean, we did it with The Office. That was pretty
Yeah,
fun.
I know. I was there.
They still have the mental scars.
It's still there. Still remember.
Still remember the
Yeah.
chant of Oreo.
Yeah. Those were good times. But yeah, no, I think that you know, like there's like in shows, right? You have like slow episodes as it were. But in good writing, those episodes like it's like when you read a novel too. Like you can have scenes that are like not so actiony packed as long as they establish something with the characters. Like if they don't do anything, if they were useless, you just drop them. But I think that episode was a good episode to establish characters, like stuff, and to bring out everything that we had been kind of not talking about, whether it was, you know, with each other or whether it was in our phone calls, just on screen. It was good. I liked it. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how Solomon felt about it.
I mean, I actually really enjoyed it. I always love a good role play heavy episode. Not even stuff that has to get really push the plot forward. I just like having characters interact with one another. Sometimes you get the most out of when characters are just shooting the shit or going over what happened, just reacting.
It's true. One of my favorite episodes of any show will be the first episode of The Office, where nothing really happened aside from potentially deciding that there was a zombie amongst them. 90% of that episode was just the four people just talking to each other, and I was laughing hysterically the whole time. It was great.
Yeah.
I do love Not Lurch being a zombie becoming a running bit for the rest of the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's just kind of weird.
Again, not a zombie.
Just wants a sunflower.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, you need episodes like that. Like,
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
good. They're good.
They're just a fun time all around.
How many asterisks does the word fun have in that sentence?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
There's a footnote in there, but we're not allowed to see it yet.
Of course, of course.
It's like a Google comment, and you just click it, and it's like 3 more pages.
Yep. Solomon, how are you feeling about coming back as Vincent?
I'm always happy to appear as Vincent to the roar of the non-existent crowd. I still posit that Vincent is one of my favorite characters just because of he's like the first one I've ever been able to play as, like, going from mortal to kindred to, well, kind of in a position of power. Usually whenever I play vampire, I always come in and it's just immediately, okay, this is what he is right now out the gate, and here's what he's going to be going. So being able to play that transition was very nice. Plus it's always fun to bring back more stuff from the very first flagship show we ever had here on Hollowed Haven.
Yeah, it just keeps linking the universes together.
Yep. What do you all think about the other SPC having to come in the same episode?
I'm not allowed to comment on that. I know too much. Yeah, did you not see that there were 2 SPCs slotted for next week?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I
Totally
mean,
totally unrelated.
Completely unrelated. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it.
interesting. I did see that. And I was trying to remember who he was, and I vaguely he plays Peter. Is that right?
Plays
Peter,
yes.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that will be interesting to see for sure. But I wasn't sure what his capacity would be. Now, if he's linked to Vincent, oh man, I'm gonna play your thoughts. But Arthur only knows of Peter in passing. He knows that he's friends with Rosanna, and he knows that they met up, and that's about it.
And that meetup was enough for him to go and leave Victoria's body alone in a freezer.
Yes.
You schmuck.
Yes. Well, that's because he's protecting Rosanna. It wasn't about leaving Victoria. It was about protecting Rosanna. Because Arthur makes bad choices.
I mean, one of those things was almost certainly more important than the other, and I don't think it was the corpse.
Fair.
It's fair. Though, that also did cause an opening that created a whole other problem for Isabel.
It did. And so, I regret nothing. Good things happened because of it. Story plots. It inevitably led to Vincent. So, hey, you're welcome. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, if Peter and Vincent are linked, yes, I will have player thoughts for sure. But as far as Arthur is concerned, Arthur thoughts be like, yeah, okay, cool. He's part of the evil cabal of evil. Good to know.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yep.
Things are starting to make sense to me.
Yep.
Cool, great, grand.
All right, just another name on the list of people to kill. Got it.
Just Rosanna might have an evil pen pal.
That list has
Yeah.
got to be getting so long at this point.
So very long.
It is. And, Arthur has these allies now that like do things when he pays them. Wink. I'm just kidding. He's not going to have anyone just murder people outright. He does have a list. He does have a list, though. He does have a running list of names. And he does have these allies that do things for him when he pays them. So those are things. They're just not necessarily two things that he puts together.
Certainly.
I mean, when he retires, that might change. We'll see how it goes. A later season somewhere on HHS where Arthur's the villain, just assassinating people.
Just becoming an absolute menace.
Yeah. It's like episodes of...
Embodying live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah. Just episodes of Vampire or Werewolf or something where like Patty and Tov and Quiet just show up to kill people. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Mm-hmm. Fun. That's the word for it.
Fun, italicized with all kinds of quotation around it.
I mean, I'm not saying it's a possibility. I am saying, however, I was pinged for some stuff and it involved hunters. So I'm just saying.
Oh, hey, those footnotes are back.
I wasn't pinged by BP or Legacy, but I was pinged for some HHS shows to do some huntery stuff in the background. So we'll see how it goes.
And that was how Arthur died. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it may just be like the epilogue of Arthur is like he shows up in some other show and dies.
Just fucking dies.
I was fully expecting that to be Vincent last season.
He's not out of the woods yet.
I was gonna say we still have another episode.
I know. I was just like, I'm surprised he lived this long. He's coming in next episode. Let's see what happens.
I'm just saying. I was thinking about this. Like Arthur's got a specialization in both vampires and mages. I'm like, I wonder which one applies. Probably the vampire, but like if it doesn't, the other one has to apply, right?
Yeah, it would be vampire because Tremere are by definition not mages.
Right. So that's a thing. When we first encountered Vincent, he didn't really have those. Now he does. So fun times.
Only the most fun.
I do wonder how that applies to ghouls. That is a question I have for BP. Like, how does she rule on that? How do those specializations apply to ghouls? And is it a separate specialization, and do I need to take it?
I would assume it's a separate special.
Yeah, because they're still technically mortal, just mortal with a little bit added onto them.
Yeah. It runs a great territory. It does actually raise an interesting question for hunters because, like, let's say that ghouls don't technically count because they're just mortals plus. In which case, then a vampire with ghouls is actually protected from hunters because they don't get to like do any of their cool special stuff against the ghouls. So that's an interesting little story arc to take down for a hunter game.
Yeah, it gets into a very weird situation of technically ghouls are supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not mortals, but they do fall into a different category from vampires
Mm-hmm.
because they're like fundamentally different creatures.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's weird.
And this is one of the reasons why Hunter becomes my favorite of the World of Darkness games, because you just have all of this territory to play around in, right? You could do kind of whatever you want, and it's fun. You want to have a tree made of 1,000 mouths? Go for it. What are hunters going to say? Ah, that doesn't exist. That's not in the rules.
Want to
That
have them run
is
into a god from a different universe? Sure.
Sure. What are they going to say? Ah, that's not a thing. But you know, when you get to the other games, they usually have like rules for how those creatures exist in that subset of rules, you know? Like all of the vampire supplements have like all these weird kind of monsters, but they're all some version of a vampire, you know? And then of course you have the other ones, like you have you have a mage, which is not a subset of vampires. But you have like when you get to the weird, not traditional kind of things, then it becomes like subset of vampire. You know? Like a field that drinks blood kind of feel. Whereas in Hunter, could be anything. Could just be outer darkness. Could just be a thing. Just exists.
Just some funky shit.
Yep. Just funky shit.
I don't know why, but when you said just a field that drinks blood, for some reason all I could think of is so the dead marshes are a subset of vampires. Got it.
It's in one of the supplements. I can't remember which one it is. But there's like a little village where like the everyone in town is like prosperous as long as a field gets fed blood, and like it explains it in the book as some kind of antediluvian field thing, and that's in a released supplement. So I'm like, all right, I guess. But with Hunter, hey, I mean, what? Just an evil field. It does evil things.
Fields haunted.
What? Reddy's flamethrower.
Fields haunted.
Fields haunted.
Yep.
Alrighty. Do we have any other questions?
I do not think so.
I don't. I think I asked him.
Alrighty, then I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you both so much for being here and speaking with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course.
Anytime. So, thank you all for listening in. This has been After Dawn. We release these episodes on Thursday of the week that they're recorded around noon for our $5 plus Patreons. So if you want to go ahead and keep up to date with your Hollowed Haven news productions, you have to be a patron. So feel free to subscribe. So that way you can listen in on all of our fun questions and listen to how everything is going to be absolutely fine. I'm Solomon. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
If you don't, we're feeding you to the blood field.